Today, we're diving into one of the hottest debates among shooters, .223 Remington versus 5.56 NATO. If you've ever scratched your head wondering how these two differ or felt lost about which one belongs in your firearm, you're in good company. I've been around the block long enough to hear every tale, rumor, and outright fabrication about these rounds. People toss around opinions like they're facts. But here's the deal. Getting this right matters. It's not just about how your gun performs, it's about keeping things safe. You might be tempted to shrug and say they're basically twins, right? Not so fast. There are key distinctions that don't get enough airtime, and overlooking them could spell trouble. That's why I'm here to unpack the critical details about .23 versus 5.56 that often stay in the shadows. We'll cover pressure differences, case misconceptions, reloading truths, and beyond. When we're done, you'll have a clear picture of what separates these cartridges and the smarts to pick the right one for your rifle, whether you're a newbie or a grizzled range veteran. Let's jump in. They're not interchangeable, and pressure's only part of the story. First up, let's bust the biggest myth floating around. That .223 and 5.56 are essentially the same thing. Sure, they're close in appearance, almost like siblings, and in some setups, you can swap them out. But don't be fooled. Close isn't good enough when you're dealing with firepower. These rounds hide differences that can affect both safety and how your gun behaves. The headline difference? Pressure levels. 5.56 NATO ammo packs a bigger punch, up to 6,000 psi more than .223 Remington. That's because it's a military-grade round, built to thrive under grueling conditions. Rifles designed for combat can take that heat, but many civilian guns chambered in .223 aren't up to the task. If you shove 5.56 pressures into a .223 setup, you're flirting with a pressure surge that could wreck your firearm or worse. So, what about cross-compatibility? Can you fire .23 in a 5.56 chamber? You bet it's no problem. The 5.56 design can handle the milder .223 pressures without breaking a sweat. But flip that around running 5.56 in a .223 chamber, and you're rolling the dice. It's a risk I wouldn't touch. Here's the takeaway. Don't treat these rounds like they're interchangeable. They may share a family resemblance, but their needs and limits are worlds apart. Always peek at your rifle's chamber stamp and play it safe. When in doubt, lean toward caution. Better to overthink it than face a blowout. The overlooked detail. Freebore changes everything. Now let's shine a light on something that doesn't get enough attention. Chamber geometry. The outside of .223 and 5.56 cases might look like twins, but the chambers they fire from? Not even close. The key player here is Freebore. The gap a bullet crosses before it hits the barrel's rifling. In a 5.56 chamber, you've got roughly double the Freebore compared to .223. It's a tiny difference, about 0.025 inches more, but it's a game changer. That extra room in a 5.56 chamber gives the bullet a longer runway, easing pressure buildup. That's a lifesaver with the hotter 5.56 loads. Meanwhile, .223 chambers are snugger, with less Freebore. That tightness boosts precision by getting the bullet into the rifling fast, but it also ramps up pressure quick. Fire a stout 5.56 round in there, and you could push your rifle past its limits. How do you figure out your chamber? Easy, check your barrel. If it's stamped 5.56 NATO, you're cleared for both rounds. If it reads .223 Rem, stick to .223 ammo only. Got a .223 Wylde? You're golden. We'll circle back to that. Point is, Freebore isn't just trivia. It's a safety and performance factor you can't ignore. Case confusion. Thicker isn't always the rule. Time to debunk another tall tale that 5.56 brass is universally thicker and tougher than .223. Yes, military 5.56 cases often have beefier walls, but don't bank on it every time. I've weighed enough brass to know the truth isn't that simple. Some 5.56 from Lake City, for instance, comes in lighter than .223 cases from brands like Hornady. What's the real story? It's not about thickness alone, it's about the space inside. Thicker walls shrink powder capacity, which can nudge pressures up. But the kicker? The gaps, usually tiny, less than a grain of water's worth, barely a blip in most cases. Still, reloaders, listen up, uniformity matters. Mixing brass with different weights or volumes can throw off your shots. For both .23 and 5.56, sort your cases by head stamp and match your load data to what you've got. Don't buy into the thicker is superior hype. Focus on what counts: consistent brass, solid prep, and safe reloading habits. The head stamp's just a starting point. Speed showdown. It's not just bragging rights. Let's shift gears to velocity, where 5.56 loves to flex. On average, it zips out 150 to 200 feet per second faster than .223, depending on bullet and load. That edge shines for long shots or hard-hitting impact. Why the boost? Higher pressure and military routes. 5.56 was crafted to punch through tough scenarios, delivering flatter paths and more oomph downrange, perfect for defense or battle. But there's a catch. That speed wears barrels faster and kicks a bit harder. No biggie for most, but if you're dialing in tight groups or hunting, .223 might suit you better. It's gentler on your gear and often groups tighter at distance. Here's the deal. 5.56 brings power and pace, but weigh your priorities. Want a blazing? Do it all round. Pick 5.56 with the right chamber. Crave precision and durability. .23 could be your pick. Knowing the trade-off steers you right. Reloading truths. Trust the numbers. If you reload, you've probably heard clashing tips about .223 and 5.56 brass. Some swear by .223 data for 5.56 cases. Others push the reverse. Here's the straight shot. Base your loads on your brass and chamber. Why? Military 5.56 often has crimped primers you'll need to decrimp before reloading. No sweat with the right kit. More critical, 5.56 brass is built for higher heat. Using .223 data with it might shortchange your performance, while stuffing 5.56 data into .223 brass could spike pressures too high. My tests show tiny tweaks case volume, powder, seating depth, can swing results big time. A safe .223 load might strain thinner brass or tight chambers. Start low, creep up, and watch for red flags: flat primers, stiff bolts, swollen cases. Pro tip: keep it consistent. Sort by head stamp, check links, and stick to solid data. Max speed's fun, but accuracy and safety win long term. Slow beats, sorry. What your rifle says, markings matter. How do you know your chamber? Look at the stamp, it's your roadmap. Most AR-15 barrels mark it near the muzzle, or chamber, .223 Rem, 5.56 NATO, or .223 Wylde. If it's .223 Remington, use .223 ammo only. 5.56 could overstress it. 5.56 NATO? You're free to run both, though 5.56's heat might wear it faster. .23 Wylde blends the two, tight for accuracy, tough for 5.56 pressures. It's the flexibility king. Check those marks, they're not optional, they're your safety net. Point 23 Wylde, the smart compromise. Let's zoom in on point 223. Wylde, it's a gem worth exploring. Torn between point 223's finesse and 5.56's muscle, Wylde bridges the gap. It's engineered to fire both safely, blending point 223's snug fit with 5.56's longer Freebore. You get pinpoint accuracy and the grit to handle 5.56 loads. Love switching between surplus 5.56 and precision .223? This is your answer, no trade-offs, just options. It's a hit with shooters who demand adaptability. Want one rifle for everything? Wylde's your fix. Picking your ammo, match it right. So, how do you pair ammo with your rifle? It's simple but vital. .23 chamber. Use .223 rounds, safe and spot on. 5.56 in there, risk spikes and wear. 5.56 NATO chamber. You've got room for both. .223 might edge out on accuracy, but 5.56 brings power for defense or tactics. .23 Wylde. Jackpot, shoot either. No fuss. Match your ammo to your stamp and goals, precision, punch, or all-purpose. Check the barrel, pick smart, and you're set. Wrapping it up, the stuff you need to know. There it is, the rundown on .223 versus 5.56 that slips through the cracks. From chamber quirks to brass myths, reloading wisdom to Wylde's versatility, we've hit the highlights. Hope this cuts the fog and arms you to choose wisely. These rounds may look alike, but they're distinct and grasping that keeps you safe and sharp. Know your rifle, pick your ammo, and put safety first. Check those stamps, load carefully, and shoot with confidence. What's your take? Stick with .223, roll 5.56, or rock a Wylde. Drop your thoughts below, I'm all ears. Liked this? Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Stay safe, shoot smart, and catch you next time.